Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the brand new-ish Marvel Legends STRYFE, part of this X-Men 5-pack, which is being called just the Villains 5-pack as far as I know. There's no, name to it, which is just kind of funny to me. But STRYFE is one of my all-time favorite X-Men characters, maybe one of my all-time favorite character designs ever. I just love the spikiness, and the helmet I think is super cool. So I was very excited when they announced that they were going to make a new one, and I was thinking it's mostly going to be the old one with a new head, and it's like halfway that and halfway new stuff, so I'm relatively satisfied, but there's some stuff to talk about. So let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. Now, before we get into the review proper, I do want to mention he is part of a 5-pack. I'm not reviewing it all in one video. I think it's better for you guys if I do them individually so that you can just watch the reviews for the ones you care about and not sit there for an hour watching 5 figures get reviewed. Worse for me for the YouTube algorithm because an hour-long video is nice, but I don't think you guys are going to want that. So I am going to just break them up. You'll just have to search by their name, and I'll say Villains 5-pack in the title. So you'll be able to find everything you need, but they are going to be in separate videos. Okay, and then one last thing, and this is going to be my question of the day. Would you be happy, and I think this is going to happen, would you be happy if they release this guy as a standalone figure, the new version, with some coloration that actually looks like the comics? I mean, I know he's drawn sometimes to colored, sometimes to look like this, but more often than not, it's way more chrome looking. Very blue hue to his metal. Like you can see his metal is silver, his is blue. Would you like a blue one in a standalone release? I would. I would definitely like that. So maybe we'll get that. That's the question of the day. Okay, let's get all this stuff out of the way. Let's get the figure where he belongs. Let's get the camera adjusted. Okay, STRYFE, one of my favorites. Let's see, how tall is he? This guy stands... Oh, by the way, I was actually able to find the old release for comparison this time. I can't always do it. This time I did. He is slightly taller. You can see at the shoulders, he's a little bit different. Let me make sure. I mean, I know he is different, I checked. But let me make it as fair a comparison as possible. They're both upright. He is slightly taller. Definitely, there are new parts, and we'll go through that. But that's the old one, and there'll be a photo at the end too. And this is the new one, and we'll do comparisons after I do a height measurement so I don't forget. So he stands to the top of his noggin, about 18 centimeters, another maybe 19 and a half to the top of his helmet, give or take. And that's going to be roughly, we'll say 7 1/8, and then 7 3/4, roughly. And this guy is about 1.2 Darwins. He's got some serious size to him. I like that. He should be imposing, so I'm very, very pleased about that. So let's talk about the differences in the figure first, because that's an aesthetic thing and kind of an articulation thing, but mostly aesthetic. Firstly, his silver is a little bit lighter. It is all molded other than where it had to be painted, so that's reasonable. I will say the helmets are about the same, but the body silver does seem a little bit lighter on this guy. Obviously, this one has the teal body everywhere underneath. This guy only has the light blue on his abdomen and inner thighs. So this is the look I'm more familiar with, so I like that. That's fine. I don't like that they just threw some paint on there. There's no sculpt work to separate it. It looks super cheap. Right in here, it looks really bad. I hate that. It's because they used old parts. But they did use new parts too. These arms are new. The hands are probably reused, I'm guessing, but not from this figure. So yeah, we have the new pinless arms, so that's a pretty cool look. I'm glad we have that. This guy did have the spiky fingers, which is a fair look for STRYFE. For this version, I am more familiar without the spiky fingers, and that's what this figure has, so that's fine with me. I tend to actually like the spiky fingers, so that would be cool. But this guy only has these 2 hands, so you're kind of limited in swappability. And then pinless legs also, which look damn near like the exact same sculpt, just slightly extended here and there, and slightly altered on the inner thigh. It looks so much like the exact same sculpt. I'm thinking the thighs are different and the lower legs might be the same. It's hard to say, but they look so similar other than the pinless nature. Which is easy enough to do because obviously you sculpt it without pins first and then you add the pins for articulation. But either way, new legs, new arms. That's it other than the head, which is obviously new, and you can see the differences there. So let's talk about the head briefly. It does have that tampography in the mouth. I'll zoom up, or I'll pan up in a second. I want to show you the mouth. So it does have a little bit of like stubble going on, a little bit of shading, and it does have the colored lips, though his are not as bad as we have seen in the past. And I think up against the silver of the everything on his body, it actually looks pretty darn good. And you do get those eyes in there, which are nicely done. They line up really well. And then we do have the new helmet, which is splendid. This is a faceplate that goes on as far as production. Then you get all these separate fins, which are separate, even though they are all connected to the head. That must have been a pain in the ass to mold. I'm surprised they did that. This makes way more sense, and that would have been hard enough with those back fins. But having these all one piece on the sides makes more sense. Ugly though, so kudos to them for making this work. That's the kind of effort I want to see all the time. This head is gorgeous. Only real downside is because it's a 3D figure and not just a 2D drawing, his chin spikes do have to bend when he's looking straight. So I think it would have been nice if they just kind of sculpted them to point forward some, so that it didn't look like they were actually bending on his chest. But there's nothing they could do about that other than what I just said, so that's reasonable enough. So yeah, it's a really good looking figure. You saw the differences. There you go. You can tell me which one you think looks better. For me, it's hands down the new one. So it's really unfortunate that as of right now, it's only available in a 5-pack, because it's so much better looking than the other one. One thing we have to mention though, for the aesthetic, there is no paint other than the coloration changes, so no shading, no silver paint to really make it pop. It's all marbly plastic. It's somewhat questionable if you ask me, but here's the thing that really grinds my gears. They use the same cape as before, because that's a big ass mold and it would have cost a ton to make a new mold for his cape. And it's fine, generally speaking, like that's fine. But if you look at it from the side, you get those giant plastic plugs. I hate that so much, and it'd be easy enough to Dremel them out. I'm guessing they did that to make it so that the cape was a little bit less floppy. I don't really know. It must have been that. But those big plugs up there look awful. That's a bummer. But otherwise, it looks really cool. I love the new head sculpt. That new head sculpt, the mouth, the helmet, I love it. Whoever did that, I would buy you a cookie if I could. That's a good one. I like that a whole bunch. Looks awesome. Figure looks really good overall. So aesthetically speaking, 9 out of 10. Definitely could be better in the transitions here and some paint and whatnot, but pretty darn good. Now, as far as accessories go, it's not the most exciting thing in the world. We get the 2 open hands and we get 2 fist hands, which is fine. I don't suppose you need really much more than that, so I'll go 5 out of 10, 7 out of 10, I don't know, whatever you want to pick. Maybe like a yelling mouth would be cool, an alternate head. Even if they had to make the helmet, yeah, that would have been too expensive for them, so I don't know how they could have done that. So I'll go 5 out of 10 still. It's only 2 hands, but whatever. Okay, doesn't really matter. As far as articulation goes, we're going to see a lot of old articulation in the trunk of the figure because it is old articulation. It is the Hyperion body under there. Let's not forget that gem. But you do have the hinge and the ball peg. You're not going to be using it much because, like I said, his head is already bouncing off his chest. So you can rotate it, of course, and it can look up and down a little bit, but you are bouncing off the chest, so it'll be fine. Shoulders, obviously limited by the shoulder pad, which is connected to the chest plate, so no rotation there. You do still have the shoulders really far forward. Luckily, it's kind of hidden on this figure, but that Hyperion mold is trash, and it would have been really nice to see him on something a little more dramatically sculpted. I'll post some images of STRYFE. He's usually pretty stylized, and it would have been cool to see a little bit more proportion on him, but that's okay, I guess. So the shoulders, you get that much. They do go out to the side. That's fine. Bicep swivel, that's okay. Elbow joint, that's fine. He's a little chunky, so that's good enough range. A little bit better than 90, and you might be able to play with it to get a little bit more. Wrists have a swivel and a hinge. That's all standard. Ab crunch on this guy. Oh, God, I forgot how horribly sculpted this was. It's like they sculpted the abs, and then they said, nope, no more abs, just weird lines carved into it, and it's flat and weird. Such a weird ab crunch. It is functional, though, so that's all right. And then you get your waist twist. The belt is a floaty belt, so that should be handy for posing purposes. By the way, the lighting is making him look extra shiny. He's not that shiny, unless you have studio lights in your display, in which case he will look that shiny. Just be aware of that. He's not that illuminated naturally. Okay, so legs going out to the side. Obviously you have those thigh plates, so this one doesn't want to go as far. A little bit better than 45. I don't know why that one's going farther. This one Something weird is going on in there, but either way, it's about 45, a little bit better. So that's okay. Going forward, no problem at all. Going back, not really. Thigh swivel is fine. Double jointed knee, definitely some looseness in these knees. These pinless joints, great idea for aesthetic. Not so great in the execution because they rely on either tabs or ratchets built into the joint, which does result in looseness over time especially, but even looseness right out of the box, and definitely limitations. So be aware, mine is very difficult to stand because it has a really wobbly right leg. Really annoying. But the knee works well enough otherwise. This one's pretty wobbly too in those positions. And then the ankle is super tight on mine, which worries me because as you loosen that up, it's going to get really loose really fast. And they've been doing pinless ankles forever, so I don't know why this one's so crazily tight, but it is. But you get decent enough range going back, not much forward. So is he the most articulated figure ever? No, but it's STRYFE, so it doesn't really matter, so I'll give it a 7, and I'll say it's reasonable. But is it worth getting? Absolutely. Final verdict on this release is it's way better than the other STRYFE. It could still be better, but it is a perfectly solid release, and if they do ever come out with a single carded one, definitely get it. The fact that this is a 5-pack figure, I'm going to give an overall rating on the 5-pack at the end of reviewing all 5 of them, but I'm going to hint right now, they are not all worth having at all, not even close. So if you are piecemealing this, if you're a la carting this, if you are trying to get this guy on his own on eBay or whatever, go for it. Just don't go nuts probably, because you probably will see it again as a standard single release. But I'm going to give this guy an overall rating of 8 out of 10. It's really good. It does have its limitations. It looks awesome, but that's mostly the character design, so I can't let that skew my judgment in saying it's higher than an 8. We still have some serious problems with this figure, so I gotta be reasonable, and noting that it is in a 5-pack is also somewhat problematic. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with 8. I personally love it, though I'm very, very pleased with it, and you guys probably will be too. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down, and if you haven't subscribed, you might want to. I have new videos almost every single day, and thousands already on the channel, so make sure you come back for all of that. In the meantime, keep collecting.